For all of you guys that watch my channel that don't actually know, my previous hobby really is cars, okay? That's actually how I started this channel, and that's what the plan for this channel actually was. However, with 2020 being such a terrible year and us all being locked down, basically at the end of April I decided to invest in something that I've had quite a lot of interest in the past, which is drones and model helicopters, that sort of thing. And I decided to buy myself a Dji Mavic Mini. Now the reason for choosing that drone was simply because I was new to the hobby, and basically, cut long story short, I decided that I didn't want to financially commit to something that was a lot more expensive. Basically until I knew I was going to really use it. Now it just so happens that this channel basically decided to take off, no pun intended, when I very simply went on the internet and I went on YouTube to try and find ways how to extend range on the Mini 1, because basically I could barely get it 700 meters when I was trying to basically film ships basically at a port called Saltend, which is where I basically work. And basically I then decided to find some range extenders, and I thought, right, I'm going to do my little video and report back to YouTube my findings. With that, I had quite a few of you that started commenting on my videos, and cut long story short, one thing led to another, and I've ended up with just shy of 2,000 subscribers. Now that isn't a huge amount, but at the end of the day, the channel's growing, and that's all that matters. So, if any of you are watching this video and you haven't yet subscribed, I'd really appreciate it. I would absolutely love to get to 2,000 subscribers just before the start of the new year. So don't forget, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. So this video is a very short video. I'm fully committed with work today, funnily enough, but it is the 31st of December, and as you know, or possibly you should know by now, as of 2300 tonight, that's 11 o'clock if you're working a 12-hour clock, that there is going to be some new drone regulations coming into force in the UK. Okay, now there is another YouTuber called Ian of London. I'm sure many people that are watching this video will have seen his already. Now, cut long story short, he has done a perfect video that goes into so much more detail than what I possibly have time to do, quite frankly. I wanted to, but time is sort of limited at the moment. So what I'm going to suggest is you guys do go check out that video. He explains all of the categories and just all of the drone rules in so much more detail than what I can possibly do. There will be a link to his channel in the description below and above my head right about now. But ultimately, the two drones that are really featured on this channel are the Dji Mavic Mini and the Dji Mini 2. And cut long story short, those two drones that are in the open category A1, you are going to simply have the most flexibility with those drones than any other model that's pretty much going to be out there. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about other manufacturers. I'm focusing primarily on DJI. But basically, the Mavic Mini and the Mini 2 are basically sort of, they're almost like regulation beating drones at the moment. So the Mavic Mini and the Mini 2 are by far the least restricted drones going into the new regulation changes after 2021. For my channel, you guys only really watch it for basically these two drones anyway. So I'm only really going to cover these two in this short video. So basically, the Mini 1 and the Mini 2, they come under legacy drones and they are sub 249 grams. So that puts them in the open category in the A1 class. Now basically, general rules still apply. So you are still limited to 120 meters in height. Obviously, I'm working in meters, not in feet, but if you was, it's 400. And it seems we've got a little bit of clarification. The CAA generally advise that line of sight is classed as around 500 meters. Now, obviously, I think that's still open to a little bit of an interpretation because, of course, if you are flying at night and you have got some massive amounts of bright lights on your drone, which, of course, you know, given the weight limit on the Mini 2, we all know this is actually coming a little bit lighter, so you can fit some lights to it. Then obviously, you know, I'm sure you'd be able to prove that you can see that drone from quite a lot further with those lights. So that's a little bit of a grey area for me. But ultimately, in this A1 open class, you can effectively now, where you, believe it or not, couldn't before, you can fly the Mini 2 or the Mavic Mini effectively from your back garden, because you are now able to fly over uninvolved people, okay, apart from crowds. Now, obviously, this also allows you to actually fly these drones with no distance limitations away from people, like I said, provided they're not a crowd, even in sort of residential and industrial areas. So believe it or not, as much as many of you might not have been aware of the rules that was in place beforehand, they're actually a bit more lenient on these new drones. But I would urge you to, you know, go ahead with caution and fly with caution, because it only, even though these two drones, which are predominantly on my channel, do sort of skip a lot of the major restrictions that are now in place purely because of their size. And yeah, what I would urge you guys as the viewers and, you know, pilots to do is please don't abuse that fact, because at the end of the day, if you start taking it off from your garden, and you start hovering over your next door neighbour's garden, they're soon going to get annoyed, and then they're going to start making complaints, and then that is simply going to start making these rules to change for these two drones, and none of us want that. So please fly responsibly. One thing I want to discuss as well is there's a little bit of misinformation on this, okay? So to have one of these drones, you need to register with the CAA in the UK for an operator ID. Now, here's the loophole. An operator ID lasts for 1 year and it costs you £9 to be renewed every single year. You do not need a flyer ID to fly one of these drones. Pretty clear? However, since it is the flyer ID and the flyer ID multiple choice sort of presentation and questions that you will do, I don't know why anybody that wants to fly a drone responsibly wouldn't also do the flyer ID test as well. Simply because it doesn't cost you a penny more. You're paying the £9 for the operator ID anyway. And at the end of the day, to give yourself some more knowledge to make you a better, more responsible and more competent pilot for either of these drones, go do the flyer ID. Doesn't cost anything, and you're going to get a little online course, and you're going to get multiple choice questions at the end. There's 40 questions, and the pass mark is 30. It makes sense to do it, and it's going to improve your flying skills as well, mostly as well as your sort of awareness. So hopefully, like I said, that is a really quick brush of the new regs. Effectively, they're going to be more open. You can fly these things closer to people, over people, and you can fly them sort of in sort of residential environments. Don't go fly it down a busy shopping street. That's not what they mean. That's an open crowd. You know, don't go to a concert and start flying it over them, because that's not going to work either, because again, that's a crowd. I believe the CAA basically say that anything that would constitute a crowd is where, if this was to drop out the sky, people couldn't move out the way. Basically, they didn't have enough space to move out the way to avoid being hit by it. That's what the CAA, I believe, constitutes as a crowd. So just bear that in mind when you are flying. Realistically, you can't go wrong than the two DJI drones that I feature on this channel. Like I say, in that category, they're going to give you by far the most flexibility to fly where you want within reason. But like I said, please don't forget to go check out Ian of London's video, where he explains it all in so much more detail than what I can. All I will say is, if you haven't already bought your drone yet, given the fact that these two are by far the best drones that you're going to be able to fly going forward without having to take any more testings, or, you know, having to stay at least 150 meters away from people, then these are the best to get. If you haven't yet got your drone and you're thinking of getting one, please don't forget, check out the links in the description below. It does help the channel out a hell of a lot if you click one of those before you buy it. DJI Direct and Amazon are covered as well. Don't forget your memory cards. And obviously, if you haven't seen this channel before, I have done a whole host of videos where obviously I've tested out the Mini 2, provided footage, and just all sorts really. So please go check those out, and I'm sure there is something in there that you'll find useful. Ultimately though, 2020 hasn't been the best. I wish absolutely all of you and all of us a much, much better 2021. So happy new year, safe flying, and see you again soon.